Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is Dave. Thank you for joining in. We'll wait a few moments. How is everyone today? I've had a swimmingly good day today. Okay, let's get started. Time is almost, it is 6 o'clock here in the Pacific Northwest. As you can see here, one of my favorite things that I wear in public on my jacket, and that is a Marine Corps emblem. I don't wear a flag on my jacket because there would be no flag if it wasn't for people like this. Understand? Good evening. My name is Dave Strider. I am running for the office of U.S. Senate here in the state of Washington. I am an independent. That means it's your voice that I'm listening to and not some party. It is your voice that charts our direction. It is your voice that decides how we act as a nation, especially that of your elected senator, one who takes the time to hear, one that takes the time to react. I'm not going to give you false hopes. I'm going to tell you the truth, and from there we'll be able to move forward, because any history that is based on truth will last forever. My opponent, Maria Cantwell, and I do have other opponents in this race heading into the primary. I am the only veteran. I am the only veteran who is running for the office. Yes, there are others who have family members, but I've actually lived it on the front lines. Not on the front lines of battle, but on the front lines of freedom. Only to find out later in years that I was part of supporting the industrial military complex that President Eisenhower warned us so much about in his farewell address. As your senator, I will fight for your freedom. I will fight for your voice. I will fight and let you know at times when your freedoms are going to be eroded or going to be taken away. I will fight on the Senate floor. I will name names of those perpetrators who would try to deny you your rights. I do not take super PAC money, corporations, or bundled funds. I cannot do that, not with a clear conscience, and still serve you. And my choice is to serve you because we have, as an electorate, that's right, I'm including myself too. But as your elected representative, I will fight for you. I will not turn my back on you. I took an oath in 1973 to protect and serve this country, its inhabitants, meaning you, people of Washington, and this United States, and all of our territories and commonwealths, to protect us, to protect you, along with other veterans, from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I repeat to you tonight, I will serve you to the best of my ability. I will always have an open door for you to walk into. I will always answer your mail. I will always answer your phone calls. Always, I will. That's why I'm asking to be your senator. Now, coming up here next week, we have general elections here in the state of Washington in my particular area. Starting next week, after that general election, this campaign is going to kick off. We are going to be doing more meet and greets on the street, walking along neighborhoods and businesses. I'm going to be walking. I hope to meet you. I'm spending a lot of my time this coming spring, and if I can get east this winter, I will plan on being there this winter on the eastern side of Washington State. This is a very big state. It's 3 times the size or twice the size of the land that I came from in Ohio. We have half the people that are there in Ohio. We have a very diverse populace here in the state of Washington, and I want to meet each and every one of you. Today's open forum, I'd like to focus on David. I am running on an independent ticket. That way your voice gets to be heard, sir. I'm in the state of Washington, U.S. Senate. My opponent is current incumbent Senator Maria Cantwell. Where are you at, David? And I like the response, cool. I appreciate that. But I am a United States Marine Corps veteran. I worked in the Judge Advocate General's office, and so I know a little bit about what military life is like. I've seen a lot of it, okay? I was only in just under shy of 6 years, but in that 6 years, it was one of the richest experiences that I've ever had in my life. I wouldn't trade it for a moment. Now, today I've posted 2 videos, and the person speaking on those videos, his name is Will Fisher. Now, just recently, before we went live here, I posted another one, and it was in regards to Purple Hearts. And Will, who is also, Mr. Fisher, who is also a Marine Corps veteran, an Iraq war veteran, he made the comment how our president said that he loved the military so much and that he wished he had a Purple Heart. Well, Mr. Fisher is a recipient of the Purple Heart. And in that video, a short video, he explained other people who earned that Purple Heart. My father had one in WW2, wounded while on his anti-aircraft gun. My father survived, or I wouldn't be here. But there are other people who have Purple Hearts, who were awarded Purple Hearts posthumously. They died. Mr. Trump said he wished he had one. Well, Mr. Trump, as Mr. Fisher said, the only way you get a Purple Heart is by being wounded in action. Not behind the lines, not evading the draft, not getting deferments, but actually on the front line and being wounded in combat. That's how you get a Purple Heart, Mr. President. I do not have battle ribbons. I do not possess a Purple Heart. There are things that when you're an active duty service person, there are things that, yes, you think that maybe you should have gotten a theater ribbon to acknowledge your participation. But no one goes into the service wanting a Purple Heart. No one. The only thing that you go into in the military is surviving the next day, especially when you're on a frontline unit, when you're in a combat situation. All you can think about is protecting yourself, your brothers and sisters beside you, and achieving your objectives and returning home. We're asking you right now to think about that for a moment. And see, David, you're like me. I never saw combat. I sat off the coast of Vietnam with my battalion, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, in 73, 74 for the operation they called Eagle Pull, and that was for the exact evacuation of Saigon and Phnom Penh. And we know what a fiasco that was as far as the people fleeing from South Vietnam, trying to get away. We probably wouldn't have had that Vietnam War had our government listened to Ho Chi Minh. He was talking about unifying a country. Think of the bloodshed on both sides that could have been avoided had we not propped up a puppet government that folded as soon as our troops left country. Folded. It was folding anyway. Our presence there was just stemming the inevitable. North Korea invading and deposing the South Korean government. We have been on the wrong side many times, people. We have been on the wrong side many times because our elected leaders would choose to engage in war so that they can add that to their accolades of fighting, defending freedom. With whose blood? I want you folks to take a listen to this. I wrote this back in 1982. A mother cries, her child has died. A father weeps, his son's no more. No wars, no more. I just can't take it no more. I hope that explains my position on war. Yes, Tammy, I believe that. I encourage all of you here on this page in the 2 comments, the most recent ones that I've made today. I have 2 short videos, under 3 minutes, from a Mr. Will Fisher, Iraq war veteran, United States Marine. He talks about the Purple Heart and really getting down on Mr. Trump on how he thinks it's glorious to have a Purple Heart that he wants so dearly. I say, why don't you and the North Korean leader get into the square circle and have at it? Not to kill each other, but, mess each other up pretty good. And I'm afraid you're going to be crying like a little girl, Mr. Trump. You've never been threatened with your life before. You've never seen death. You've never looked into the face of death. I know you haven't. So, David, did that poem or verses that I gave you, does that explain how I feel on war? I hope it does. Policies that I would advocate in the Senate. Let me get to that question for you, sir. Also in a video that I posted today was the privatization, making private the Veterans Administration. Right now, I am a disabled veteran and I receive 100% all of my medical care from the Veterans Administration. I am in the process of stopping smoking, okay? To me, that's a very big thing. I'm 65, I have clear lungs, I smoke, but not for long. What was 1 pack a day is now down to less than 5 cigarettes a day. And that's all within the span of 30 days. Nicotine is a terrible addiction. Terrible. And the reason I say it's terrible is because it's legal. So I would be supporting the Veterans Administration. I would make sure that the Veterans Administration gets the expansion and the funding that they need to take care of the 9 million veterans receiving health care from the Veterans Administration. I have never had to wait an insufferable amount of time to be treated or to be seen by my primary care physician. at the Veterans Administration. Social Security, the same thing. Single payer would alleviate so much of that right now. The $1.3 trillion that the Congress and Senate cut out of the federal budget, Medicare, Obamacare, really the Affordable Care Act, the Veterans Administration, with a major increase of $80 billion more than what the president wanted. That tells me that we're getting ready to go to war. When you increase your military budget to the point of a war footing, that not only scares other nations, especially with a president who wants to shoot off a nuclear bomb. Mr. Trump is really close to being the guy who rides that atomic warhead right down into the throat of Kim Jong-un, you know? He would do that. He's that egotistical to think that he could survive it. I do not appreciate the stance that Mr. Trump takes in world affairs. He has put us on a war footing like we've never seen since the Cold War. Russia, let me tell you something. We can mess around and fix elections worldwide. But when somebody interferes with our corrupt system, with our corrupt politicians, laying bare the lies that they tell us, they take great offense. They call that intrusion, bothersome. Hillary Clinton lost the election, elected Donald Trump. Even the right wing are saying that. Some of the other things that I would take into consideration. Russia is not our enemy. Our enemies are within our own nation. Those people that were elected to serve us, the people, have fallen down face flat on their abilities. They have got the Peter principle. We have promoted them to the point to where they can't be promoted, and that is based on their incompetency, because their incompetency is so great that we're going to promote them again. Henceforth, gerrymandering, just to ensure that that actually happens. Healthcare, single payer, it's as easy as your Social Security number, as easy. That means healthcare could start immediately tomorrow with your Social Security ID. Immigration, we have immigration laws that have been pending on the books since George W. Bush. And no action has been taken because they say it's political suicide. Political suicide is waiting, because in 2018, you might as well go ahead and clock out. You might as well tap out. McConnell, you might as well tap out. What's your name? Ryan, that's right. And all you corporate Democrats who caused the election to be in the favor of Queen Hillary, but she was never went to her coronation. I'm very thankful of that. I would also like to talk about things that are on my platform, judicial reform. And that starts from the grassroots all the way up. We have entirely too many people, and this goes with prisons for profit. It's all part of that judicial reform package. Here in the state of Washington, we have Initiative 940, a de-escalation of police force. I'm sick and tired of seeing young men and women, and even older adults, being choked out, shot in the back, and tased to death, and beat senseless to where they die. I'm tired of that. And as your senator from the state of Washington, I will do everything I can to prosecute them to the full extent of the law. I am tired of Americans afraid to go out and afraid to call the law enforcement people in their areas, because they may be the ones that are shot. They may be the ones who are incarcerated. Also, as your U.S. Senator, I will protect the environment. I would do everything I can for the people in the state of Washington and every state and territory in this nation, and do our best do my best to make sure that we get on track with the reduction of greenhouse gases. I would do everything as your senator to make sure that we have the same war footing for green energy that we had to defeat the Axis powers in WW2. The same thing that we use for our military industrial complex. Instead of building tanks and bombs, we will build solar panels, wind generators. We will do tidal. We will do offshore. We will do geothermal. And no, we will not be sucking all of the energy from the sun. We will not be doing that. Green energy. The right for a woman to choose. That means with single-payer health care, your employer, no one except you and your doctor can choose the best direction for your health care, ladies. Period. I am a father of 3 daughters. I lived through the civil rights. I got my butt kicked all the time because somebody who lived in the same apartment building out and called my friends words that I cannot repeat. And yes, they start with the word N. From that day forth, until I moved from that town, I walked home every night with my lips swollen from being punched out. I said, that woman was not my mother. I mean, my friends, they'd come over to my house and they would hang out at our place until their mom or dad were home. And it gave us the time to kick it out, maybe talk about school, maybe watch some cartoons after school. But no, that woman ruined it for me. So have I experienced the civil rights? Have I experienced what people of color were going through? Yes, I was a white boy. Those were my friends the day before. And I still considered my friends, and I could not understand in my heart. In my mind, I could not wrap my head around it. Why were they attacking me? Why were they hurting me? I thought we were friends. I thought we loved each other. But because of one woman's feminist words and her attitude and tone, wanted hate, I saw that. I was in the 5th grade when that happened. It was when the year that this happened was the year that JFK was assassinated in Fort Dallas. That's when that happened to me. I also attended NAACP meetings. My first girlfriend, the one that when I was a young man, that I was deeply attracted to, was a woman of color. I believe in equality across the board, not with no boundaries on what you look like or what your abilities are, but what's in your mind and what's in your heart, and how do you treat your fellow human beings. That is how I react to you. If there's hate in your heart, don't show it around me, because I'll call you what you are. A racist SOB. I am a United States Marine, and I do not mince words. Period. If you've got hate, I can show you what hate is like. You want to see anger? I can show you anger. You want to see what you don't ever want to see? I can show you that too. That's why I encourage you to go and fight the fight with me and other progressives out there who do not want us fighting wars for profit. Did you see that anger in my eyes? I was a Marine Corps sergeant. I had to take care of a 81's platoon batteries. We had 8 guns. We were a target. We were the battalion commander's personal artillery. We were a heavy weapons platoon. We had the M60 machine gun, 750 rounds per minute, a 7.62 round with every fifth round a tracer round to ensure that you were on target. But if you were smart, you got rid of that tracer round. And you became an expert operating that weapon. I had the opportunity to shoot that weapon. Also, I had the opportunity then, the laws were just coming in, but we had the 3.5s. I'm also trained on the 106 recoilless rifle. That was a fine piece of weaponry. The 16 millimeter mortar for close in. War is no good. When it is to defend our nation and our neighborhoods and things of that nature, yes, it is then warranted, but it is not welcomed. We are a democracy. We are a republic with laws. And through those laws, we are able to exercise the freedoms and the rights that we have as citizens of this nation. I am a son of the American Revolution. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. General Cornwallis, the King's general, surrendered to General Washington, the new General Washington. Cornwallis surrendered to him at my grandmother's home. My grandmother, who was Lydia Moore, she married into the family. What a great choice. What a great gal. She's my grandmother. We fought in every wars. And now, every time that we send troops everywhere, what happens? What happens? We're fighting a war of conquest. We are fighting a war of attrition. We are wearing down our men and women. We are destroying the national treasure, the next generations and the generations to come. Bin Laden's dead. We should have brought everyone home instead of sending 6,000 troops to Africa with bases, over 38 bases everywhere. I had a poster up the other day of bases and what the bases actually do functionality-wise. Iran is surrounded, and we call Iran a belligerent nation. Wouldn't you want an atomic bomb? I mean, if you're going to be invaded, wouldn't you just much rather go out with a big bang? Genocide in Palestine, courtesy of the Israelis. I'm a supporter of Israel, but not of their policies against the Palestinians, not the policies of their land grab and destruction of other governments. Okay? I am not in favor of the genocide occurring in Yemen, the starvation in Africa. We give weapons to terrorists. And who has to go in and clean it up? People like Marine Will Fisher and his comrades, his brothers in arms, like my father, like my uncles, like my cousins. And yes, I was active duty Marine too. But I never saw action, and I'm blessed for that. I was trained to shoot the balls off of a fly at 600 meters. And yes, I could. With no telescope. Iron sights. 600 meters. Every shot. Right here. I shot 246 out of 250. That's not too bad. And I'm just as good with a pistol. But I am so blessed, and I'm going to tell you that, I am blessed that I never had to lower my weapon at a human being. I take no pride. I take no pride in wanting to fight or taking someone's life. I would take no pride in that. I mean, when I kick somebody's ass, fisticuffs, I feel bad afterwards. I feel bad that I trashed him so much. I feel real bad. Because I don't feel that I actually solved the situation. or remedied the issues that we were facing that led us to that hand-to-hand fighting. I take no pride in that. I take no pride in striking another man. I take no pride in that. And I dare you to hit a woman in my presence. I'll rip your head off and poop down your neck. Okay? But no service person goes into the military wanting a Purple Heart. That's my point today. We can defend all we want. We can fight all we want. But the bottom line is, no one in the armed services goes in their mind, in their heart, and what is them as their fiber, their soul, if you want to call it that, is not to go in and get a Purple Heart. Mr. Trump, you've got too many deferments for bone spurs. How can you say that you wanted a Purple Heart, that you want a Purple Heart? You are insulting the men and women who have laid their life on the line so asswipes like you can go and steal. You know a lot about the law. You know a lot about bankruptcy. You know how to shield your funds. You know how to laundry money. You know how to do all of that, Mr. Trump. When I lived in New York area in the 80, 81, when I would hear your name, it was also went along with what? Dog shit. That's how much people loved you. They just soon kicked the dog shit into the curb so the street cleaners could get it. That was Donald Trump back in 80, 81. He is my president, elected with the shroud of uncertainty in 2016, the DNC fiasco, yes. But let me tell you something. There are 9 million of us veterans, Mr. President, Speaker of the House, and Mr. McConnell, you worthless piece of, and Eddie Munster, Paul Ryan. $9 million veterans receiving VA care. And you privatize that, that'll be 9 million veterans who no longer get the excellent care that we are getting now. You will have stolen it and sold it to the highest bidder. And you will probably rake in millions, tens of millions from it. When you are millionaires in Congress or the Senate, if you are a millionaire, I don't care, okay? I had something that I was working on, okay, regarding green technology. I divested myself from that, and I gave it away to a family member. I'm a big proponent for green energy. My son gets consult from me. But as far as giving him something, no. I am not going to give him something if he doesn't earn it. I do that with all of my children. And they, in turn, do the same with theirs. That's the trouble with Donnie. If he would have started out from scratch, he'd be homeless in New York City, living in some cardboard box over on the east side if he was able to stay on the east side and not thrown up underneath an overpass. Or in prison with a great big guy named Bubba that makes love to him every night. No, Mr. Trump, I don't respect you or your cabinet or anyone in it, including your Secretary of Interior. selling off lands, giving the okay to get rid of sacred sites. That's what we as veterans fought for. We fought for that. That was our America. That was the land that we love. And you are slowly selling it off to the highest bidder, Mr. Trump. You are one POS. You and everyone that surrounds you. I hope that there's an indictment on you as far as collusion with the Russians. I know that your sons are. They are some dumb MFs. I'm talking to you right now, Mr. Trump, and I'm talking to the people who are listening. I'm talking to you like one pissed off Marine. Okay? We have the law on our side. We have what's right on our side. The people do not want any more war. Those of us who are on Social Security, we want our cost of living increases. We want that inflationary addition to what we have earned as far as our funds. The trillions of dollars that people like Eddie Munkster taking from Social Security and Mr. Reagan taking from Social Security to balance their budget, which included massive tax cuts. We live in a feudal state, ladies and gentlemen. We live in a feudal state. This country was born on revolution. 2018 is that revolution. 2017, next week, the revolution is taking foot. It is grassroots level elections. Progressives are going to be elected all over the country in council seats, mayoral offices, port commissioners, other commissioners, councilmen, women. Going to be elected all over the country. In 2018, goodbye, establishment. There's going to be such a block of progressives and independents running up the stairs of the Senate, the Congress, shaking hands and laughing with joy that the first step has been taken to retrieve our government back. Mr. President, we're coming. We are coming. The revolution has already begun. Bernie Sanders lit that fire for us. And although Bernie wasn't elected, and he told us right up front, if I ever tell you to do something, don't do it, especially if you know that it's wrong. Well, guess what? That's why people didn't vote for Hillary. That's why people went to the Green Party. That's why Democrats voted Republican. That's why people did not vote at all. Washington State went to Philadelphia as a Bernie Sanders delegation. Here in Washington, I was a precinct committee officer in the 27th Legislative District here in Tacoma. We got Bernie Sanders, a delegation from Washington. I didn't get a chance to go. I wanted to, but we had some really fantastic people that went there. Okay? We went some good people that went there. Some who are actually promoting independence and stuff throughout these races. We want to give back to our nation that which has been taken. Now tonight, the comment was Veterans Administration, the privatization of the VA. That can't occur. That cannot occur because there'll be 9 million veterans. You hear the horror stories of homeless veterans. You privatize the Veterans Administration, count on another 9 million individuals and their families on the streets. Because privatization will cut our medical, will cut our pensions, and kick us to the curb. Our usefulness as part of the war machine, in their opinion, is over. How sadly wrong they are. Purple Hearts, those fallen in the field of battle, not the field of honor. The only honor on that battlefield are the values of those men and women who went there. That's the only honor that is there. They've been lied to, like the rest of the nation, like the rest of the world. When we have leaders who can't remember the lies that they told the day before without a video prompt, you know something's wrong. Yes, I can understand a government not telling us all the details on a very high profile or negotiations that are occurring because something has happened that we are unaware of. I can see there being a little bit of confidentiality, a little bit of privacy. But in our everyday going-ons, job bills, health care, Veterans Administration, Social Security, retirement, employment, judicial reform, just to name a few. And let's not forget education. America has got so stupid here in the last 20 years. Have you ever seen those advertisers there on the street? Let's ask them, can you tell us when the War of Independence occurred? Oh, was that 1965? I remember hearing something about that. And the South won, right? It was a war against Canada or some stupid stuff. Folks, we are falling down as a nation. Okay? Impeaching Donald J. Trump is not going to be the answer. Have you looked at Mike Pence's record and his ideology? I don't chide him for calling his wife mother. But I saw he said that the therapy that Michelle Bachmann and her husband emphasized so much, turning people who were gay back straight. I believe Mike Pence made the comment that that saved his marriage. Mike Pence is from Indiana, and I'm from the state of Ohio. And I know that the state of Indiana, it is red as hell. The people there believe that it is not their fault, but someone else's fault, the reason they don't have what they should have. Well, if you were smart enough, you could have had those things. If you would have voted for those people who were progressive, for all the people and not just for a certain segment. And the reason that you didn't get what you thought you should by voting for them was because you were not in a 7-figure income bracket. A 7+ income bracket to qualify to be in that club. Do you understand now? And since the days of Richard Nixon, that's right, I am not a crook. Since the days of Richard Nixon, we have done this. Richard Nixon, as president, took us off of the gold standard. You hear Congress telling us time and time again that we don't have the money. We don't have the money for that program. We have to cut this program, but we need to increase our military, which is over 50% of our budget every year. I emphasize this as well. We are a republic with laws, with rules, and with a free people. We are not an empire ruled by the oligarch or the 1%, or those who would be king or queens. We are not ruled by those. We gained our independence from a king in the late 1700s, declared our independence 1776. We fought against kings, royalty. And now, because people have a lot of money in this nation or anywhere else in the world, they're considered smarter. What a stupid way to go about things. Money does not make you smarter. The Kennedys, who are well revered in this nation, their dad, their grandfather, got their fortune by being a criminal, runners, bootlegger. George W. Bush, his grandfather, the Koch fathers, and all these other people that were millionaires during the World War II era. We're also going along with Henry Ford. That's why I don't buy a Ford, because found on road dead. Colluded with the Nazis, provided the Nazis with technology. The Kochs even helped the Russians build their steel factories. And it got to the point where FDR wanted to arrest them, seize their property, which he should have, nationalized and then sold it, and thrown their asses in prison. Period. I worked in the Judge Advocate General's office. I know a little bit about law. And I do know right now, after 2016, I'm going to do everything I can as your elected senator here in the state of Washington to prosecute those who would take from you and the rest of the nation. That's right, prosecute with extreme prejudice. If we still have Gitmo rolling, that's where they'll go to prison. Okay? I promise you that. There won't be no federal prison that'll hold them. We'll be able to shut down prisons across this country. As your senator, I will do that. We will shut down those private for-profit prisons. Because if a judge is going to sentence you and there is no space in a state or federal prison for you based on the crime that you committed, I guess you're going to go on an ankle bracelet. Consider your punishment, Your Honor. There are a lot of things that we need to do with our nation. But right now, there are 9 million veterans' health care at stake. It's the only single payer because, okay, we don't have a payment. We don't have an insurance premium. And now our elected leaders, since we can no longer go and trudge through the sand and the desert and the mountains, we are worthless to them. Do you know who I think's worthless? Those who would take from those who served. Those who would take from the survivors of the families who gave it all. That's right. Benefits to the survivors. The Veterans Administration does everything they can to take care of the serviceman or woman. And Congress wants to take that away from them and give it to a private organization which they can line their pockets. Multiply that 9 million veterans. Multiply that 9 million. Add the wife. So that becomes 18 million veteran and dependent. Let's say that veteran, like Mr. Fisher, that I posted 2 videos of his on this site. I didn't get permission. Okay? I am promoting what that gentleman said. A brother Marine, a combat wounded Marine, a Purple Heart recipient who saw brothers lose arms, who saw brothers or sisters get the Purple Heart. but they were also dead. A leg blown off, guts blown out. The horrors of war. We've seen it in Syria and blame Assad. We've seen it in Palestine and blame it on terrorists. We've seen it in Yemen, the starvation of children, and blame it on terrorists. We've sent drones in to bomb houses supposed to be pinpoint and zero collateral. Children damaged. And you wonder why we have terrorists, the terrorists who drove that truck from Home Depot through a crowded bicycle-laden street today. Today, 8 people died and 15 others were injured. And that is just the preliminary estimates. If people came here to this nation, or people and started bombing the hell out of us and leave our cities like what Beirut, Lebanon was, what Kosovo was, what Lebanon, what Palestine looks like, what we did to Iraq, and every place that our soldiers and airmen have gone, we have just flat out leveled the place. And we got bombs that are called daisy cutters. It is the largest non-atomic bomb in our arsenal. It just flattens everything, destroys everything. Those are the kind of bombs that we are using. We're in a country where we have no business at all. We're supplying arms to people that have no business with arms. That's why Congressman Gabbard has a bill out there to stop us from selling arms to nations who would in turn sell those arms to terrorist organizations. And we should prosecute with extreme prejudice those in our nation, our government, who would sell or manipulate those arms to terrorists. Ronald Reagan, remember the Iran-Contra deal? Where decorated Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North facilitated that. In my opinion, he left the Marine Corps in disgrace, committing treason against the American people by starting war and selling arms to an indigent nation, a nation of indignation, part of the axis of evil, as Reagan called them, to facilitate the recovery of the hostages taken. Ladies and gentlemen, support your veterans. How do you support your veteran? You don't go up and say, thank you for your service. You want to thank a veteran, you register, you vote, and you vote for a progressive. You vote for somebody who doesn't want war. Trust me, if war came to this nation, it doesn't matter how banged up we are. Of that 9 million, it doesn't matter how banged up we are. We can still defend. We will not go down without a fight. Do not let fear be the direction that you choose in your day-to-day life. Do not let fear rule your thinking. Do not. You know what I'm afraid of? The fact that some of you may not ever be able to go and try to achieve your dreams. That's what I fear. That our nation is taking away that opportunity that is yours by sending us to war, having men like Will Fisher and myself and other veterans who are running for office standing up and speaking. And I'm telling you, we took an oath a long time ago. I did, and many others like me. We took an oath to defend you. against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And right now, the swampist Washington, D.C. is so full of slimy, reptilian, amoebian, just slime, scuzzballs, skaters, bizbags, malingers. We had a charge that we used to like in the Corps, dereliction of duty. And depending on how derelict you were, you could get a summary court-martial or a bad conduct discharge. And I think that's what we ought to pursue. We are in a state of war. Remember the war on terror that was declared by Mr. Bush? Remember that? Well, because of that and all the corruption that has been happening in this government, since that declaration was made, and stealing from the people and giving it to corporations, that is treasonous. That is giving aid and comfort to the enemy. Think about that for a while. I also want you to think about those veteran groups out there who are trying to help veterans. With only $19.95 a month, you can help a veteran get back on his feet. I'm telling you this right now, even though those groups on the surface, and I've had the opportunity to speak to a couple of them, even though those groups are there, the only thing that they should be doing is helping facilitate the veteran who is wounded or disabled into the veteran healthcare system and helping them provide the paperwork for the veteran to receive any type of pension that they may be entitled to. You, as an American citizen, don't need to be paying as little as $19.95 a month to make sure that a veteran and his family get to see the things that they need. It is an undermining of the Veterans Administration system. People hate the VA. It's because they have never experienced it. If you are upset with the fact that you cannot go to see your doctor in the Veterans Administration, do you know that? Okay? I want to show you something. In that video, he shows his VA card. There's mine. Okay? There's mine. And what that means is that my disabilities are service connected. The reason my body is not, my dad, he worked until he was 75. And it pains me that I have had to sit on the sidelines since 2011. When I laid on the floor of my home, paralyzed for over an hour, and I just coughed. That's all I did. I coughed. And I couldn't move for over an hour. And anybody tells you that paralysis is painless, slap them for me. It is painful. It's debilitating. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know a veteran, give him a hug. Tell him thanks. But along with that, if you tell him thanks, you can say, and you know what? I registered and I voted. You'll see a smile. I guarantee it. Think about the way this nation is going. Try to filter out all the static out there, all the misdirection, all the lies. You want to know the truth? Tune in here. Elect me as your next senator here in Washington. That's all you will get from me. Sometimes it can be painful. But guess what? It's the truth. And because of the pain, we can overcome that pain. My name is Dave Strider. I am an independent. I am running for the office of U.S. Senator to represent the people here in Washington State. I do not take super PAC or corporation money. I want your voice to be heard, not that of a party. Yes, your voice. I want to see and help your will, the will of this nation, the will of this state, the voice of this state, echoing through the halls of Congress. Not only in the lower house, but in the upper house as well. Resonating. And all I can say is that then we can truly say, let freedom ring. Tonight, okay, I want to thank everyone for stopping by. We had people stop in tonight. We got to talk about the Purple Hearts. I hope that I was able to answer some of those questions and my position on it. But no person goes into the service to get medals. Nobody does. Because in order to get a medal, it's not like the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts. Someone lost their life. Think about that. Thank you, everyone, for stopping in. My name is Dave Strider, as I said. If you have any questions, any comments, please contact me personally. The message is getting out there. I see it every day. People making comments. The amount of people who are following and tuning in and listening and asking those questions. Just remember, there is no question too hard to ask. There is no question that is crazy or stupid. How else are we supposed to learn the truth is if we never ask or challenge something that we don't understand? Let science be your guide. May God light your way. May you love your neighbor. Embrace your family like it's the last day of your life. This nation, one nation, our nation. As always, my name is Dave Strider.